1 year ago today, the College Football Playoff Committee did the unthinkable. They did the unprecedented. They left out an undefeated conference champion from their playoff invitational. And we are this close to the same team that took their place last year, possibly taking a spot of a more deserving, or maybe even two more deserving ACC teams' spots this year as well. Listen, Lane Kiffin has already told you guys what matters in this is brand. There's no doubt that Ole Miss is likely more deserving than Alabama, but what does Ole Miss not have? Ole Miss doesn't have the brand that Alabama has. There's no doubt that SMU, who has only lost one game this season in the ACC and really has lost no games in the ACC, but has an out-of-conference loss to BYU early in the year with, remember, a different quarterback, the thing that plagued Florida State last year. There's no doubt that SMU shouldn't be penalized for having to play an extra game. I don't agree with Commissioner Phillips on much, but he's completely right about that. There's no way that you should penalize SMU for having to play an extra game while Bama sits home on championship weekend. But if the Tigers upset SMU, that's exactly what the committee plans to do. We'll learn a lot from tonight's playoff rankings and kind of see where teams are placed. But let me tell you something. None of that matters. Florida State never dropped when they were winning games without Jordan Travis. They stayed high in the committee's rankings until that final Sunday when they were dropped a year ago today. And so is the ACC in trouble? Well, what about Miami? They've got a Heisman Trophy type quarterback. They've got a brand that exceeds that of Ole Miss and SMU. Could they sneak ahead of Bama? Well, go look at the Vegas odds, and the Vegas odds tell you that's not very likely. Now, never mind the fact of what Miami's record is against winning teams, what Miami's record is against teams that are going to bowl games. Just don't look at any of that. Just look at the patch on Alabama's chest. It says SEC. We have to value them more if we're the committee. That's almost in their rules. We have to value what Alabama has done over what Miami has done because Alabama plays in a better conference. That's what they want you to think. And you won't often hear me, a Florida State guy, defending Miami or saying they deserve this or they should be in or they should be out. But what I will tell you is not to play this game, not to make it all about this, but Florida State fans told everyone last year that this was going to happen to other people. It was funny for you guys then. Not all Miami fans, not all SMU fans, not all fans of other teams, Ole Miss or whomever. It was funny back then. Look at that team that's getting laughed at 13-0, getting left out. And y'all said, well, it won't happen to us. And of course, at 13-0, you couldn't get left out because if you win your conference championship and go undefeated, you get an automatic qualifier. But what we tried to tell you was what happens when the ACC has a team go 10-2 and the SEC has a team go 9-3. We're about to find out. And listen, the most diehard Miami fan, the most diehard SMU fan, the most diehard Ole Miss fan, you all know that you being more deserving, whether it be because of wins and losses, whether it be because of merit, whether it be because of the teams you beat, the way that you defeated teams, no matter what, you know that your brand is not quite that of Alabama's. And you know that if the committee has an opportunity to put Alabama into the college football playoff, they're going to take it. Alabama has over a 60% chance based on the Vegas odds right now to make the college football playoff. And are they deserving? Should they get in? I don't really know. I've seen this team look like crap at times. I've seen them get throttled by a very mediocre Oklahoma team. I saw them get throttled defensively against a very mediocre Vandy team. Vanderbilt. Who did Miami lose to? Miami lost to a 9-3 Syracuse team. Miami lost to an 8-4 Georgia Tech team that took Georgia to 8 overtimes. Listen, I like to clown on Miami. It's part of the rivalry. That's what we do. You don't become a Seminole fan and not clown on your rivals. I get it. I love to make fun of Miami. I'm glad they lost to Syracuse. Listen, Miami fans, I'm being real with you. I'm glad you lost that game because I don't like you. But I also can look at it and say, is losing to a 9-3 Syracuse the same as going into Oklahoma and getting blown out? Is losing to a 9-3 Syracuse the same as going to Vandy and giving up 40-plus points? No, not at all. A Georgia Tech team that took Georgia, the team that we expect to win the SEC championship. I know Texas is a slight favorite. But when those two teams played at Austin, we saw what happened. Took Georgia to 8 overtimes. Where's Miami's bad loss? Miami doesn't have a bad loss. Alabama has 2 of them. But there's something Alabama has that Miami doesn't have. There's something Miami has that SMU doesn't have. There's something that Alabama has that even really South Carolina and Ole Miss don't have. It's the SEC brand. It's the SEC logo. It's the SEC powers that be backing them. Nobody can argue that South Carolina is not the hottest of all of those teams, the 5 that I've just mentioned. If anyone deserved it based on how they're playing right now, which is what the committee did last year, here's the other issue. We don't know what the hell the committee's going to do. We don't have any idea what criteria the committee wants to apply this year, because last year it wasn't total body of work. It was who's playing the best right now. Who would win the games if we put these teams on the field on neutral sites, took off the logos? Who would win those games? Well, I agree with you. Alabama would have probably beaten Florida State. Florida State without a quarterback and a lot of injuries. Yeah, Alabama probably would have won. So if you're going to use that same metric now, who would win? Well, I don't know that playing hypothetical games is maybe the smartest. I know that the SEC is undefeated when hypothetical games get played, but wouldn't you take South Carolina in that situation? I certainly don't know that I would take Alabama in that situation. I might even take Miami over the way that Alabama's playing right now. And I know what Miami just did in the last 2 months of the season. What about SMU? Where do they figure in all of this? Well, obviously SMU wins and they're in, right? That's their easy way to get in. But is that really so easy? Is beating Dabo and Charlotte really the easy way to do things? How about going 11-1, undefeated against your conference in the regular season, losing to a BYU team that at one point was, 8-0, and doing it with a quarterback shift? Jennings didn't start that game. Now, he did play some in that game. It went back and forth, but Jennings didn't play in that game the whole time, and they lost by 3 to a really good BYU team. And we're going to hold them out because they had to play an extra game? They lose to a Clemson team, and that's going to be the committee's argument to slide them into the playoff? They'd be better off forfeiting this game, not going to Charlotte, just saying, hey, we're not going to play in it. Give Clemson the championship. We don't want the loss on our resume. We don't want the loss on our record, and slide us in because we didn't lose on the field. We didn't lose a game, so just slide us in. They'd be better off to do that. Now, Rhett Lashley's not a coward. He's not going to do that. Obviously, there'd be no talk of that. But you can't preach for 9 months that you're not going to penalize teams that play on championship weekend and then penalize teams that play on championship weekend. If you're not going to penalize Georgia and Texas, if you're not going to penalize Penn State or Oregon, you can't do the same to old SMU. But I want to tell you, I think that is what they're going to do to SMU. I think that if SMU loses this game to Clemson this weekend, which I'm not saying is a done deal, I think SMU has every chance to do it. I think they're a slight favorite in this game. But if they drop it, let me just tell you, that will be the committee's way of sliding Alabama up into the playoff. Again, I can tell you we'll see what the rankings look like tonight. I'm just telling you it doesn't matter. What the rankings look like tonight do not matter. Because they didn't matter last year in week 11, in week 12, in week 13, in week 4. They only mattered on Sunday. For weeks, the committee said, yeah, we know Jordan Travis isn't there, but Florida State continues to win. They continue to cover the spread. We're going to keep them up. They did it for weeks. And then on Championship Saturday, Selection Sunday, Florida State covered the spread against Louisville. Their defense was the best of the day on Saturday. And they said, we're going to change our minds at this point. We saw something different here. Florida State played a third-string quarterback because of a concussion. Their second-string quarterback would have been back for the playoff. And they still said, we're going to leave you out. Don't tell me that tonight's rankings mean anything. We're all going to get hyped up about it. We're all going to make conclusions. We're all going to say, oh, this means this and that means that. I'm telling you, it don't mean a thing. SMU fans, you're not safe. No matter what. I don't care if they put you at 1 tonight, which we know they're not. I don't care if they put you at 1. You're not safe. Ole Miss fans, I'm sorry. I don't see a way that they put you in. Your brand just isn't there. Lane can cry about it on Twitter, and he's completely right about it. You're more deserving than Bama. I'm sorry. Just ain't going to happen. Miami fans, you probably are more deserving than Bama too. I don't think you're more deserving than SMU because SMU did go and make the ACC championship. They took care of business in the conference. That's not a shot at Miami. I think Miami you should be in if SMU wins. I think you should probably get that second spot. If SMU loses, I think SMU should get that second spot. That's my take. Miami fans, I would think you think that's probably fair. You don't deserve to get in over a team that went to Charlotte when you didn't. SMU doesn't have a bad loss. I'd probably put them ahead of you slightly. South Carolina fans, I don't know, man. If they go with last year's metric, you're probably in. I don't think they're going to do that, though. I think they're going to try and put the biggest brand in. I think they have an affinity for Alabama. They like Alabama in. It's good for their TV. It's good for their ratings. And that's what they're going to end up doing. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. It's all a sham. It's all an invitational. Again, I'm not trying to play this card so much, but here I am playing it again. Florida State fans try to tell you guys, oh, we'll just win all your games and it doesn't matter. You just win all your games. And that, no, one team in college football won all their games this year. One. It is very hard. 133 teams didn't. So just don't give me the win all your games and you're good to go thing. That's not real. That's a fake thing. But we tried to tell you this was coming. And it wouldn't be because somebody went 13-0 and got left out again. But we tried to tell you, wait until it's you, ACC fans. Wait until it's you that gets put up against that Alabama team that doesn't deserve it as much as you do. I've seen all the graphics. I've seen all the memes. I've seen what Dennis Dodd has shared. I've seen what this guy shared or that guy shared. All the resume comparisons for Miami and Bama. I've seen it all. You're forgetting one thing, and that's the SEC logo that's on Bama's chest. That is the difference. You may have more ranked wins against this. You may have more wins against teams with winning record. You may have this, that, the other. You may not have as many bad losses. Doesn't matter. You don't have the SEC logo on your chest like Bama does. And that's the difference. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. This is College Football Addiction. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. It's all a sham. It's all an invitational. Once you realize that, once you can kind of grasp that and you get that, I will say the hope is, the silver lining, it changes the way you watch college football. It really does. And obviously your team going 2-10 obviously changes the way you watch college football too. I can take the jabs, but it does. It makes you realize the playoff doesn't matter. The playoff is an invitational that's designed for TV. Enjoy the regular season. Enjoy the 12 weeks that we are guaranteed. And the rest of it, is what it is. You get in, great. If you don't, whatever. It's a sham playoff. It's a sham invitational. Who cares? It's not the way that we it's not the reason you should love this sport. And if you love the playoff, you love the invitational, good for you. That's great. No problem. But if you change your mindset on it, it'll upset you less. It'll offend you less. So Miami fans, South Carolina fans, Ole Miss fans, SMU fans, I'm sorry for what they're about to do to you. SMU, you do have control over it. Go beat Clemson, and you'll be fine. Listen, appreciate you guys for tuning in to College Football Addiction. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button if you would. We'll talk to you guys soon. Maybe we'll talk after these playoff rankings come out. We'll preview all of these championship games this weekend. We appreciate you guys, as always. Talk to you soon.